Hey guys, welcome to the green room.
What's up? I'm stoked to be here.
Oh my God, I'm so happy that you're finally doing this. Like, how long have we been talking about this?
I was gonna say, I feel like we've been talking about this like since the beginning of quarantine and since you started this. So I'm very stoked that we're finally doing it.
Literally. And I'm also live from the Southampton Alice and Olivia store for their virtual fashion week. So that's exciting. Look at all the
So pretty.
fun stuff. I'll let everybody know the give backs for mental health at the end of the episode, but usually we let Hannah Babbitt kick it off on her little fire intros.
Great. Hi, everyone. Welcome to The Green Room. Kicking it off with Jenna Andrews, founder of The Green Room. Jenna is also a platinum singer, songwriter, vocal producer, and executive producer for artists such as BTS, Benny, Noah Cyrus, J-Lo, Little Mix, and Drake, to name a few. Jenna also A&Rs Lennon Stella at Records and is the co-owner of 27 Music Publishing with Barry Weiss and Sony ATV. Hi, Jenna.
Hi Hannah.
Next up, we have Janis Whitlock, who is a coach, scholar, and writer in the areas of adolescent and young adult mental health and well-being. Janis has devoted her professional life to enhancing youth and women's well-being and has over 30 years of experience. Janis is currently a senior advisor for the JED Foundation and a research scientist at Cornell University. Welcome back, Janis.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Hi, Janis.
And last but certainly not least, we have Upsahl. Upsahl is an artist signed to Arista and also a songwriter. Upsahl's viral hit Drugs soared to well over 100 million streams and nearly 2 million TikTok views, reaching number 6 on the TikTok viral chart and number 1 sound on the TikTok trends chart. Upsahl's new single, Stop, which was released last Friday, follows the release of her second EP, Young Life Crisis, which Billboard crowned as one of the top 25 pop albums of 2020. Upsahl also recently co-wrote songs for Madison Beer, Boy Shit, and Dua Lipa, Good in Bed, and has continued to write for other heavy-hitting artists such as Anne Marie. Welcome, Upsahl.
Having me, I'm stoked. Let's go.
Damn, I love it, Hannah. Like, I feel like you never get the intro, but Hannah, I'm just gonna give it to Hannah because Hannah is a badass. She manages like every badass producer pretty much in the game, and it's so lucky that we have her as the moderator. And it's just, listen, gotta love a good group of women, right? Gotta love it.
Love it.
Absolutely.
That's the definite kickoff to this mental health series that we've started, just because it's like, listen, I'm here to support any type of mental health, obviously, whoever and whatever you're going through, obviously that's what this is for. But also, like, you know, given that I'm female and such a feminist in my own right, I always like to give a shout out to every badass bitch that I know.
Thank you, Jenna. And we do have a great announcement for today with Taylor Guitars.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. So basically, Taylor has been so gracious to donate a guitar for every episode that we're going to do starting on this one. And it actually worked out because obviously Taylor is our guest. And Taylor guitar, I just like love it because it's so perfect. So basically, we're going to say a secret code. We might as well just tell them now, right? Before we start our episode. We're going to say a secret code right now that after this episode, I'm going to put a form on my swipe up on my Instagram stories, and you just have to write the code on the form along with your email, and you will have the chance to win your own Taylor guitar signed by Taylor Upsahl. And okay, so the code is STOP, Taylor's single. Yay! And we'll say it again at the end of the episode just in case you guys missed it. But again, just go on swipe ups after this episode and put in STOP with your email. And again, you'll have the opportunity to win a guitar, and all the proceeds will go back to mental health, which is always good. And before, again, we start the episode, since I'm here at Alice and Olivia, and I'm also partnering with them on this episode, if you come to the Southampton location from today all the way to next week, and you say Green Room Talks, you can receive 10% off your item, and also 10% will go back to the JED Foundation. So
Iconic. I love it.
Thanks all.
We're just out here trying to, do our best, aren't we?
Yeah.
So anyway, we will kick it off into the episode. And yeah, today we're talking about going through a breakup in a pandemic, which I can't even imagine. I know I've had dreams plenty of times, weird, scary dreams during this pandemic. And I'm just like, fuck, it's freaky. So, I mean, Taylor, I know you wanted to kick it off and kind of tell us a little bit on, what you've gone through in this pandemic with your breakup.
Really fun shit. It's great. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, at the end of the day, like, I think everyone goes through breakups, obviously, and in the moment everyone's like, nobody understands what I'm going through, like, this is different, this was a love like no other, like, no one gets it. And like, I was so in that for a while, and now I'm like sick, like, I'm going through what everyone else who went through a breakup in the pandemic is going through. But needless to say, like, it's been super shitty. I guess, like, for context, I dated like the same guy for 5 years. And we were like best friends in high school before we were even dating. Started dating when I was 16. Moved to Los Angeles together. And like moving to LA, that's like a big step. We were broke as fuck, living in a new city, didn't know anybody. I was like, didn't know how to drive in LA. So I was getting in car accidents, like left and right, like driving on the freeway. Like, it was a whole experience. I feel like we went through a lot of like shit together when we moved to LA. And like, on top of that, we were just kind of growing into our 20s as a team, So when it was good, it was iconic. Like, it was dope. The love was so real. He was my best friend. Like, I thought I was gonna marry this dude. And now I'm looking back and I'm like, of course you thought you were gonna marry him. Like, he was the first person you've ever loved, So looking back, I'm like, that was kind of stupid. But as we got older, I guess we just kind of realized like we couldn't grow together anymore. I was touring a bunch, and it just like, I don't know. We were just realizing like we were kind of on different paths at the time, but we were still like pretty ride or die about like the long-term goals for the relationship. So we were like, so classic, like, let's take a break. And as most breaks go, it got super messy and super toxic. And we were like still living together because the pandemic had hit. So he was the one that wanted to move out, and finding a place in LA when the pandemic hit was like an absolute shit show. So we were still living together. We were still acting like we were together. We would just say we weren't together, which was chill until it got super messy and, messed with both of our heads. And I think like the last kind of straw was when he like had a girl over in our house while I was at a music video shoot. And I was like, whoa, like, this isn't working. So I haven't talked to him like since that happened.
That's good.
Yeah, so like not a cute, fun experience. And I mean, like, icing on the cake was like started dating that girl like real quickly after. So I had the fucking pleasure of getting to witness their love story unfold on social media, which is a whole other thing. But like, yeah, it's definitely like not a fun thing to go through, but I feel like I'm a completely different person now than I was like 8 months ago, because like, we were so young. I think like half of like myself and half of my identity was being with him. So then when he just left, I was like, oh my God, like half of me just walked away. Like, how do I fill this void? Like, who is Taylor, So I kind of had to like rediscover myself, which has been rad. And I feel like he's probably doing the same. I feel like when you go through 5 years being somebody's best friend like that and being together all the time, like, no matter how shitty it ended, like, I have so much love for him. Hope he's doing great, whatever. But yeah, I'm doing great. I'm not fully over it, but we're growing every day. It's great. Everything heals with time. So I definitely think it was, in hindsight, like, all of this shit show of a year was definitely for the better. So there's my context for what we're going to talk about in the episode.
Oh, I mean, as you were talking about that, I mean, there's a couple of things. I mean, first of all, there's a reason, like, your first love, what is it? Your first love's always the deepest, isn't
Right.
that? Yeah. I mean, am I quoting a song, right? I'm like, I should know this, isn't it? Your first love's always, I'm pretty sure it's that.
Oh,
Yeah. Thank you, Hannah.
Okay. Same thing. Yeah.
But by the way, 100% the same thing. And the thing is that like, think about it. You remember your first love for the rest of your life. You may date other people along the way, but like your first love and that initial feeling of what love even represents is something that, like, at the time for me, when I went through my first breakup, it's like, it literally feels like whatever death feels like, You know what I mean? Like it's such a deep mourning. So I can't even imagine what that would feel like in a context of, you know, what you said in terms of there being another girl. You know, there's one thing to break up with somebody, but there's a whole nother thing entering another girl into the equation.
So easily be like, peace out, I'm in love with someone else. Yeah, it's like that's with your head. Yeah.
And also in the middle of a pandemic when you want everyone to call you and check in on you, but they have their own things going on right now.
We're all going through it. Yeah, exactly. And
so
you can't go out and like distract yourself. You can't be on the rebound. You're just like inside, like dealing with your emotions. Blessing in disguise, honestly. I feel like I had to like face things that I wouldn't have faced right away otherwise, you know, but yeah, trippy time. Yeah, it was crazy.
But what did you do? Like, I mean, you said like when you saw the other girl in your apartment, you were just like, that's the last time you talked. But like, for real, what did you do? Like, what were the actions? You were just like, I'm out, like, fuck this shit. Like,
I was pretty petty. I like moved his things out. I was like, this isn't gonna work anymore. Like, it was more of just like it wasn't even the other person. Like that didn't bother me because that was part of our like thing. We were on a break, like it was fine. But it was the like in my house. I was like, this is our like home. We like grew up in LA together, and like it was more of a like betrayal thing. And I was just like, yo, this just isn't working clearly right now. Like, let me help you move your things out to like speed this process along. And in my head in that moment, I was like, we're still homies. Like, this will be cool. But I mean, that's a messy thing to like try to bounce back from. So yeah, naturally, we just like haven't spoken since. But it was wild. I think I had to lean on my friends like more than ever. I feel so bad for them. Like the amount of times I just like called them like hyperventilating, like crying on the floor of like my studio because it's soundproof and I didn't want my roommate seeing like sobbing, like was ridiculous. So I'm like thankful for my friends and my family, but like yeah, not being able to like go out and have a good time to distract yourself, which like normally when you go through a breakup, you're like, I'm gonna get dressed up, I'm gonna go out to the bar. Like I couldn't do that. So yeah, it was a more like emotional experience. I think I was like really emotional about it for the first few months for sure.
you were like, hey, I'm gonna get ready. Can't wait for my next Zoom.
Literally, let me roll. No, what's funny, Jenna, is like we started writing together over Zoom, like when we were working on that project where we were kind of working like every day on like rewriting stuff, days after like all that went down. So like Jenna got to witness me looking like absolute shit. Like I would just roll out of bed and like had to find it in me to like open up my laptop and go onto Zoom. But like Jenna got to witness like I was in it. Like it was
Wait, I don't even think I knew that. So that
Really?
happened. I mean, I knew it, but I didn't know how. You did a great job of like talk about like pro. Like you're such a pro because I would have never known how heartbroken you were. I feel like
really? I
relating to
my hair was just like in a bun, like no makeup. I was just like walking around my house, like talking on the Zoom. Like it was not cute. But that's good.
Janice,
the way I look all the time.
No, I mean whatever. Stop. Janice, I'm sure that you've talked to so many people during this period about breakups. I'm sure that this is not an uncommon thing, right? That I mean, in the beginning of quarantine, I'm not sure if it's a rumor because it wasn't like friends of mine personally, but I definitely heard that a lot of people went through divorces and I mean, is that right? Did you talk to a lot of people through that? Breakups and stuff like that?
Yeah, sorry, my stuff's going in and out. Can you still see and hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. No, I mean, I think that's definitely been the trend that the breakups have increased. People have also gotten closer sometimes too, which is kind of interesting. But I think the thing that you said that struck me the most was really about how you had to do this in this particular time with no other sort of distractions. So you had to really stay in it. And that's definitely the thing that everybody's talking about. You know, you have no choice but to confront the really hard stuff while you're in it. So I have a question for you about that. And that is like, when did you notice that you started to recover? And what did that look like and feel like for you in COVID? Like, how did you tell? Because you were able to get out of bed better? Were you able to get your makeup on?
Yeah, it was like the little things. I would call my manager and be like, I only cried once today. Like, this is great. It was just the little things, and I remember everyone just kept saying like it'll get better with time, just give it time, and it totally did. But like what tripped me out a lot, and like I wrote a bunch of songs about it because I never thought that this was a feeling you could have. Like the day where I actually started to feel myself like letting go of that version of him and being like, I need to move on. Because I feel like there's this thing when you really like loved somebody, part of you doesn't want to move on because you're like, but what are the chances we do get back together? Like, I don't know if I'm ready to fully, like, it is like a death, like what you're saying, Jenna.
Mhm.
You're like, I don't know if I'm like ready to let go of this. And I remember one day I was like, I don't know what I was doing. I was driving in my car and it like hit me. I was like, I'm letting go of this person. Like, and I started sobbing. I was like, the heartbreak of moving on is like a whole other thing. I never knew that was a thing, like being, because everyone's so stoked to move on. You're like, oh, I can't wait until I'm over this person, and like don't cry about them every day. And then when I started to kind of feel myself moving on and letting go, I was heartbroken about that now because I was like, oh, this is officially the end. Like it's a whole
Right.
other breakup almost. It was a weird feeling.
That's right. There's like this black box we don't really talk about. There's the like breakup, and then there's the moving on, but there's this segment in between that is that's where all the juice is. It's the hard stuff, the bitter stuff, as well as the sweet stuff, right? You like find things there you didn't know you were gonna find.
Yeah.
Wow, you guys are dropping gems right now.
Goodness,
This is
like
this is crazy. This is one of my favorite parts about doing this podcast, to be honest, because literally the whole concept of it really was like, hey, how therapeutic is songwriting, and like the concept of a writing room. And I've always thought that, like going in and it feels like, okay, here's the therapy couch, this is my life. And then you're like, oh shit, like, did you hear what you just said? Like the fact that you said, like, I was imagining like that video of like that middle point of a relationship where you're like, I want to I need to let them go, but I don't want to. That feeling in a song, but also in a video, just like imagining being in a car and just feel like what you just described is exactly like that. That's what everyone relates to, that feeling.
Right.
You
But
know?
I didn't know that was a thing until I experienced it. So then I was like, I need to write songs about this so other people can be like, oh my God, that is exactly how I feel, you know? So yeah.
What did you say? What did you say, Janice? You said, sorry, Taylor, what did you say? You said something like bitter. You just said something so sick that I don't want to forget.
I think it was something like that's where all the juice is. It's bitter and it's also sweet. There's
You said, oh, but yeah, that was the idea of it. But like, it's so true though, because that's that feeling in a relationship when like, you know, they're toxic, but you keep going back, especially when you're like friends with benefits, that stage after when you're like, okay, it's over. And then it's like not over and it goes on and it can just keep going on. It's like, you need to torture yourself.
right.
But it's like, it's really strong of you that you were just like, okay, like I'm done, which I admire. I think that's really hard to do.
Yeah, no, for sure. It was yeah, all new things new feelings I've like never experienced until now. So it's been interesting to say the least. Yeah.
We have a lot of comments coming in from people that have gone through similar situations and are very appreciative of you sharing yours. One point that someone brought up was how difficult social media makes breakups. It kind of adds another layer to an already difficult situation. Can you guys talk about that a bit?
Yeah, social media is the worst when it comes to breakups because it's like, I also wrote a bunch of songs about this too. It's like, you know, you shouldn't check up on them and see what they're doing because you know whatever you're about to say is going to ruin your day. But like, there's some self-sabotage like voice in your head that's like, not do it. Like, don't you want to know what's happening? Like, go check on him, like see what he's up to, see what him and his new girlfriend are up to. You know, it's like, so I would do that all the time. Like when I was not over it, like I felt like that was the way I was like keeping him alive in my like brain, and that was what was making it really hard for me to let go, was like checking up on him. Yeah, and that makes it horrible because then it gets to like, especially when there's like another girl involved, like there's the comparing yourself to this girl and like, what does she have that I don't, and like, how are we different, what does he see in her he didn't see in me? Like that'll all get to you, and then on top of it you get to like see them thriving on social media. Like that sucks. And like before social media existed, it was like if you weren't going to talk, like you had no clue what they were up to, you know, like it was done. And now everyone knows what everybody is up to 24/7. So it's definitely toxic as fuck. And finally deciding like, girl, we gotta be done. We can't be Instagram like stalking this dude. Like we're done. Was like the most freeing thing ever for sure.
But was there ever a point? Oh, go ahead. You go ahead, Jenna.
I was just going to ask, what'd you do? I mean, I'm curious. How did you stop seeing the things that you knew you needed to not see?
I just like unfollowed. Eventually I was like, I can't see this shit. Like I'm done. So I just hit that unfollow. I think I hit the block
Yeah,
button.
I was gonna ask.
And then I was like, nah, I'm not gonna be petty, like whatever, I'll unblock. But like, yeah, I think it was just unfollowing. I was like, I don't want to see this. That's what's crazy too. Like giving somebody the power to ruin your day without really doing anything is kind of crazy. Like I would see a photo that like he probably wasn't trying to ruin my day or whatever, but like it would. And that's so shitty. Like I don't want to give somebody else that type of power, you know?
Oh God, this is giving me goosebumps. I freaking no, but seriously, like it resonates so deep. It's like such a real thing. It's like, and it's so, this is really petty, but it's the same shit. Even if you unfollow or whatever it is, if you go and want to check up on them, even if you're unfollowing and you're like so careful that you don't like something, it's like
What
the most.
Boy, that's the worst. And you're like a little drunk
I know,
too.
oh,
Like, I just want to see, like, and it's the worst thing ever. It's so toxic.
Or like, yeah, you want to like see, like low key, we've all done it. So let's just put it out. It's like you want to see a story and then you're like, oh my God, my name can't show up. So you're like, you have to ask your friend or like go on someone else's.
Give me the story or give me your login. No, like we've all been there. It's fine. It's great.
Oh my God. That's actually, it's nice though. At least we can look on the positive side, right?
Yeah. Totally.
Hannah, what are some of the other questions?
Upsahl, has this experience helped you write new songs?
Yeah, I mean, so I guess like songwriting is what helped me through this experience for sure. I mean, yeah, Jenna, like you were saying, like the whole purpose of this is like talking about songwriting as like therapy. And for me, I kind of when this all went down, I was like, cool, if I have like a moment to myself to just be in my own thoughts, like it's not gonna end well. Like I'll like spiral into an existential crisis. So like let's just do as many Zoom sessions a day as I can, just like keep my schedule full. And so I was just writing a bunch, and like any feeling I had or any thought I had about the thing, I would just like hop on Zoom, sometimes with people that I know like Jenna, or sometimes with like strangers I've never met before, and be like, listen, here's my life story, bitch. Like, let's go. And just, we would all just kind of rant. And then you realize like someone else went through something very similar. And then we start writing a song about that. Like, and then you leave the session like that you went into maybe feeling not good about yourself. You leave it and you're like, oh, cool. At least I turned that bad feeling into art, you know? Which is, I think, the most like magical thing about what we do is when you have a bad day or like a really, you know, a bad experience, you can either be like, cool, I just want to sit in bed and cry all night and drink wine, or you can be like, cool, I'm going into the studio. And then odds are you leave the studio feeling like a new person. You know what I mean? Because you get to kind of like talk through and sing through your shit, and you're like, cool, I just made something good out of something bad, you know?
Yeah, I was gonna say like we're so lucky to have that in our lives, because obviously like that's what we do every day. And you know, again, the whole point of this thing too is for people watching, especially knowing, hey, like if you're going through this, then I feel less bad going through it myself, right? Because it just kind of makes us feel like we're all on the same page. But what would you suggest for someone listening or watching if they aren't a musician themselves? Like, do you have other ways that you think can help when you're going through something like this, you know, especially through like when you're in that place where it feels claustrophobic and you can't get out and you can't escape that feeling? How would you know, do you have any advice for somebody going through that themselves?
I mean, I feel like Janice would, Janice, like
Janice.
I had a feeling it was gonna end
can you
up
give me advice, please? Thank you.
Oh my God. It was like
Yeah. You know, I think that the one thing I would say is there's no way to get through the feeling until you're through the feeling. So one piece of advice is just to accept that it's going to hurt for a while. You know, it's kind of like when you break a bone, you know, it's just going to hurt as it mends. There's no way to stop that without numbing it. And that's not possible, A, 100% of the time, and B, it's not good. And then beyond that is like what you did, which is to put those feelings somewhere where they get an expression, and ideally not a constant expression as I was a victim. You know, if we can run the victim thing, we have to, because it's there and it's true. But if we use the feelings to create something new, like music or art or journaling or moving your body in some ways, like, you know, move your body as the feelings come through, then it really does transform the feelings. It helps to kind of move through that process. It feels like you're a hamster on the wheel, but you're really not. You are making progress. So you did exactly the right thing to sort of transform the feelings. And that's what I would suggest to everybody, to find something that allows the feelings to speak.
No, I love that you said it that way, because that really is what we do. And I think, you know, whether you're making music or listening to music or making art or working out, I'm just like saying going shopping, online shopping during a pandemic, like anything that sort of makes you feel like you're distracted, right, from that feeling of being claustrophobic. It could be really anything that you enjoy, essentially. And what I find, it's like, again, it's something that I've been really talking about every day, just because I really think it works. But like, manifestation's huge, because I think if you write something down, even if it's in your phone or on a notebook or something, or say something to yourself in the mirror every day, for me, it's made me feel so much better. That's just like my own sort of tip, because like I can look out to, you know, the nature, or just like, and be like, wow, the world is so big. I'm going to get over this. I'm great, or whatever it's going to be. Right. And I think for me, that makes me feel more creative in what I do. But I think for other people in their own lives, I think it can work in any context, any life that you're living. Right. Because I think if you put something down, something you want to accomplish, hey, I want to be over this in 1 month. Watch 1 month go by and see what happens. If you do it every day, it's kind of crazy. Like, it's crazy how visual we are. You know, like my friend got me these angel cards the other day, and I just like, every day you like pick 3 angel cards, and like one that like really pops out at me, I'll just like put it on the wall and I just look at it all day. And I'm like, oh, like I feel it deeply. And I think that I would think that would help a lot, you know, I didn't go through a breakup in the pandemic. You did, but I have gone through a breakup and it really hurt. So I feel like, you know, I definitely think that works.
Hey, Jenna, can I just add something?
Oh,
you go. No, you go.
Mine was so unimportant, but you were saying like visualizing. This is like the real tea, and this is low-key really embarrassing, but like, we're on Green Room. Every time I would get out of the shower and there would be like mist or whatever on the mirror, I would write every time for like months, I miss the feeling, not the person. Like literally every time I got out of the shower, I was like, I'm doing it. And my friends would be like, are you writing on your mirror? Like when they would see it after it would dry, they'd be like, what are you writing? And I'm like, don't worry about it. But like, yeah, seriously, like visualizing that shit and like getting a routine of like manifesting shit. You're so right, Jenna, is like so helpful. It's crazy.
Dude, you need to take a picture of that.
It's so fire.
Right now, tomorrow, next time you take a shower. I don't know when that will be. I'm just kidding. So like,
in a couple days. I'm just
a couple days, a week. But next time you take a shower, fully take a picture of that, because that is so iconic. Just like the thought, like that's so great. I love that.
Yeah, visualizing shit has been like super helpful for sure. But sorry, Janice, you go.
No, this is about you. I just wanted to say, Jenna, you touched on it, and you just talked about it too. A really important principle, which is that we manifest, or we get more of what we gaze at. So if we gaze at our pain, we basically make more of it. So we have to process it. But if you gaze at the things you want to be, or the feelings you want to have, then it's really fascinating how they just kind of, they blossom over time. So what we create follows our gaze. That's why it's really important, I think, to be mindful, not to be in a negative space and looking at the crap all the time.
Oh my God,
it's very tempting.
No, it is. It's so true, because I feel like I find when I do that, I myself go in such a deep hole. So that's why I'm like listening to what you're saying. I'm like, oh my God, but this is why we all relate to this stuff. Everybody does, every person. So that's why it's like music's so great, because it transcends in terms of that emotion, just being able to go out on such a global scale. But like in terms of this conversation, anyone listening would be like, yeah, I've gone through it, you know? And I feel like sometimes I have to talk it out like this because it makes me think more positive, because I do this all the time. Like I'll wake up in a funk and I'll be like, whatever I'm feeling bad about, you know what I mean? It's like, I'll feel depressed about, oh, you know, it's like, oh, did I put on 5 pounds, or did I put, you know, or like, or like I don't know, I didn't get this cut, or like whatever. These are like first world problems, and there's worse problems out there, I know that, but I'm just saying you can get in your own way even with problems like that, and then it can cycle and get worse and worse. But I find when you do that, it just makes you feel, your whole world becomes more negative. You know what I mean? Even if it's like a breakup thing, if it starts there, then you'll be like, well, maybe he broke up with me because, or she broke up with me because, you know, I'm not pretty enough, or I'm not, you know, talented, whatever you're going to think in your head. And then that's, you're manifesting all this like bad shit. And then all this other bad shit will happen. And you're like, why me? Like, why am I the victim? Like, why does this happen to me? And you're like, wait, I'm doing it to myself. And then that's what you're like, shit, right?
I feel like too, as creatives, we're so dramatic. Like we take one feeling, I'm gonna, because you have to take one feeling and then turn it into a whole song, you know? So then like in life, you take one bad thing goes wrong and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have a horrible day now and I'm gonna be sad all day and I'm just gonna wallow in this feeling. Like there's something, it's super fucked up, but there's something like oddly satisfying in just like wallowing in that, like not feeling good. And like the littlest things can like spike that, or what's the word? Spark that? I don't know. But yeah, as creatives, we're like so like that. I feel like everybody's like that, but like, yeah, I think a lot of it is the mindset of just being like, actually, I am thriving. And even if you're not, just tell yourself you are. And like, that's much better than being like, everything's going wrong. Like I'm a victim of the world. Like, but it's so easy to go into that. It's just, yeah, it's a trip. I think a lot of it is because we're like creatives and we're just like dramatic as fuck.
No,
but,
it is.
yeah,
It's hard. But then it's like, but then on the flip side, and I will say, and this is not, again, this isn't like pointing fingers, or this is just an observation, but like when people are a lot more logical and not as emotionally driven, I feel like they repress their emotions in a whole nother way, which I don't know what's healthy, honestly. At this point, I think this is healthy because we're talking about it. I personally think so, right? But I think when you think so logically and you're not able to like even process your feelings, I don't know that that's a good thing either, you know? Right. Like, meaning, yes, you can say, oh, I'm so dramatic, and you cry, you go crazy, or whatever you did when you felt bad, and you may regret that. But then on the flip side, if you weren't to do that, you handled it in a way that was super poised, and you're like, I'm fine, like on to the next. At some point, isn't that going to just come back at you? I mean, Janice, that's probably directed at you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. I mean, we're somewhere in the middle. You know, you want to cross those two, right? So it's nice to have distraction and intellectual endeavors and whatever. The rational mind will just get busy doing something else, and it separates from the emotional body. But you can't deal with problems that way 100%, because it's better if you can sort of go back and forth, right? Go visit the feelings, kind of talk to them, be with them, and then kind of move out and get into like what you were talking about, creating new music or doing something that has a goal that your rational mind can chunk into, and then you visit. But you're right. Anyway, if you live in either place, it's going to be imbalanced and cause problems.
So I have a question for you. During that time when you were living together, but technically not together, that must have been a very difficult time. How'd you get through that?
It was weird. I think at the end of the day, we were best friends before anything. So living together was fine. And I also spent a lot of quarantine in Phoenix with my family. So when we were like, let's take the break, whatever, I wasn't in LA a lot. So, but I mean, when I would come in, it was like I was coming back to my boyfriend. Like it literally felt like that, but we just didn't have the label. And there were times where I would say, until like literally the last few days of everything, like our communication was so on point to where like it was like the healthiest it could have been. Even like our roommates were like, whoa, like how does this not feel awkward? You guys are broken up, but we're all in the same house. Like what's going on? but we made it work until it like really blew up. But I think that was just the first mistake though. Like, why would you do something like that? Like Janice, we were talking about it the other day. Like, I think a lot of the messy shit that went down at the end was us kind of without realizing trying to sabotage this relationship, because like there was really no other way out unless it like blew up, or else it would have just like sat in limbo for like who knows how long, because it was comfortable, like I was used to it, you know.
Right. Yeah, that's right. That's what you're talking about. Sometimes you have to blow things up to actually end it, and it's the kindest thing for everybody, but it's not always conscious. Just like somebody's like, okay, we got to do something radical here.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you you don't have to answer this if you don't want, but post breakup, what's your most memorable good or bad moment?
Ooh.
You don't have to answer this because I know it's wrong, but I do, if you feel comfortable, I would be interested to know.
I think like bad moment was, I mean, I'm trying to think. There were a lot of bad moments. I would say like for a while, I would just go to the beach. Like I would be laying in bed, it'd be like 1 a.m. I'm like getting ready to go to bed, and I would just feel like the mental breakdown like start, and I would be like, I gotta get out of the house. Like, you know, you just feel, you're like, I need to leave. So I would like get in my car and like full send it to the beach, which like I live on the east side in LA. Like the beach is like a whole other city. Like it was a drive. And I would just go and sit on the beach. And he was an artist as well. And I would like play his music and like so dramatic, just like cry on the fucking beach for hours. And then, but this kind of goes with like the good memories is I would finish my mental breakdown, and there's something like so magical about the ocean. I would be like, okay, I'm leaving like all of this that I just cried out like in the ocean. And when I get back in the car, I'm turning on some fucking Beyonce, and I'm going to thrive, and I'm going to go home, and I'm going to go to bed, and tomorrow's going to be a new day. I might end up at the beach again crying tomorrow night, but like we're starting tomorrow fresh. And something about like physically, like literally being like, I'm taking this negative energy and it's going into the ocean, and I'm fucking out of here, I'm leaving it, was like, it was pretty cool. It sounds dramatic, but like that was like a helpful practice that I guess I got into.
An excellent practice. Excellent.
Word.
Wow, that's pretty crazy, because this is going to be, I don't even know if I should say it because this sounds so morbid, but it's the green room. So, but when you said that, you go to the ocean, you cry and all these things, it's almost like what people do when people actually die. It's like you sprinkle them in the ocean. That sounds so morbid, I know, but I'm just saying that in a way, like I really was like, whoa, like that is actually a very good piece of advice. Because I think just like doing that, the action of going there, crying, putting all your guts into the ocean, throwing it out to this massive place, and then being like, okay, cool.
And
I've
like
heard that.
physically driving the opposite direction. It's like, it's pretty good.
You know what's really good about that? And this is that you separated places. And so you made it so that you can go to the ocean. You can go to the ocean to get rid of these feelings, but you can go to the ocean to visit. Like you could go to that place if you have a tender moment and you want to kind of revisit your relationship or something, you know, you have a place to go, a little bit like you might go visit a memorial for somebody who's passed. And you can call a little, but then you can get in the car and you can go to home, which is where you're living and thriving and growing, and it's separate. So you've created like physical spaces that represent and hold all of what you have. So you'll always have that place you can go back to if you want to ever go visit it. I'll bet it would just show right back up. Not in that like hard way, but like the tender, sweet way.
No, that's so rad. I love that. Yeah.
I love it. Good job.
It's actually interesting with grieving and stuff, because it feels so bad in the moment and for however long it takes you to grieve. But like when years pass and you look back, it's weird how like as humans, I don't know if you guys would agree, but I feel like for the most part, when I talk to people and the way that I process is like you end up only remembering the good things. Because even like with my first love and the person that, you know, I feel hurt me the most, I mean, it was horrific. Like, are you kidding me? It was the worst time and it was just awful. But I can say that like I can say, oh my God, it's so awful, but I like my muscle memory doesn't like feel that. When I think of it, I think of all the good things and the good times and how the good feelings felt. So it's so weird because eventually that's what will happen. And that's pretty beautiful, honestly. I love the fact that it works. I don't know if I feel like that's a normal thing, right, Janice?
Mhm. Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
interesting
And
how we work that way.
y-
Yeah.
It is. And I think we talked about this the other night, how in the end, at the very end or toward the end, you just, all that's left is the love. Like all that's left is what you gave to each other. Like all the hard stuff just disappears. It's so sweet. So if you can get to that sooner, not in the midst of a breakup, you got hurt in a breakup, but at some point, you know, that's what you'll capture, and you can just let the hard stuff fall through the net. And it's sweet. It's a really good way to live.
I think
And
that's
it,
cool too for
yeah.
people like, going through it right now to know that I mean, I'm definitely, I feel like on the very end of this, like I'm almost out of it, but like for people going through it, like, yeah, if you can get to the point of being like, it was just an honor to like know of that version of that person, and like that person now, whatever version he is and whatever version I am, like we probably wouldn't be together now, but like in that moment, it was like perfect, you know? Like I think that like being at peace with that and being like everything happens for a reason, we were together for this amount of time for a reason, is like honestly helps me sleep at night. I'm like everything's meant to be, like it's fine, you know?
Well,
See?
he helped you become who you are too, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I don't
Dude,
mean
but
in the world, I mean just inside you.
Yeah.
that's exactly the manifesting kind of vibe, right? Because you think that, and that's what helps you sleep. Because I think too, like people always ask themselves why bad things happen, you know, on every type of level. And they're like, you know, when we constantly question like, well, you know, and this is not to bring religion into it or anything like that. Like, oh, if God exists, then why, you know, why does this happen? And it's not about God per se. It's just more like the perspective is, I just think that we all as humans have fate. We don't know what happens later. You know what I mean? We don't know that, but what we do know is that I think what happens, you just have to be, I think the more positive you look at your experiences and realize that it shapes you to be whatever you're going to be. Because at the end of the day, if those bad things didn't happen, you wouldn't end up in a different place. Like this life is yours and it's meant to be yours in whatever fashion it is. And you have to accept that. When you do, I feel like it makes you feel better to get up, because you think, okay, there's only a certain amount of control, and that's in my mind. So regardless of all these bad things, if that didn't happen, then maybe this other thing didn't happen. You know what I mean? What are the various things that happen in our lives that we deal with? But honestly, if you look at it that way, I do think it does help you sleep at night and feel more comfortable. It's like that movie. I think, did I talk to you? I don't know. I always bring up this movie, but like the movie Sliding Doors, it's like an old movie with Gwyneth Paltrow, and it's basically about her life when she gets on the train, like, or that she misses the train, and then like between like 10 minutes, it's basically her whole life is different between like 10 minutes. If she misses the train, her whole life turns out different. So you have to look at that way, because it's like, who knows? What if you're late to a session and that session didn't happen, and then something else happens to you that day? Good, maybe even if it's bad, I don't know anything, but I'm saying it's still going to change your entire life. So if you look at it that way, it's pretty cool. Like, so if you think if that breakup didn't happen, maybe, you know, whatever drugs wouldn't have popped off the way it did. I don't know. Maybe something about whatever happened in the universe fed drugs to catapult wherever your career is. And that's, if you look at it that way, then I think it feels better to exist, you know, in our life.
I mean, I started working like 20 times harder when I went through that, because I was like, A, I have nothing else to do, and B, like I have to distract myself. And I think like my like hard work that I put in just to really just escape like my emotions, like I did see like pay off, and I was like, oh cool, so then it did happen for a reason. Like I don't know. And you also, I mean, it's so easy to look back and be like, oh my God, like this caused me so much hurt and so much pain, like I wish we never even met, like, you know. But it's like, no, I learned so much from that person, and I learned shit that I'll take into future relationships or whatever, you know. And like I don't know if I'll ever talk to him again, but like in that moment, it was like iconic. I feel like, I don't know, it's just interesting, but it was like just a moment, which is fine. I don't know.
See, I love this. This is all really good. I think this is great advice. If I, even for me, like, I think this is the whole reason conversation is good, right? And that's another thing. It's always important just to talk to your friends and people around you. And I don't know if do you do therapy normally?
No, I need to. Janice, like, I'm gonna hit you up after this. No,
I'll get you set up with someone.
I wish I would have like gone into therapy during this, like definitely. But no, I just like lean on my friends like very hard, and my friends are the shit, and like we're super there for me. And like, yeah, I love talking about my feelings. Like I'll go into a session with strangers and tell them like everything I'm feeling, or I'll go on something like this and literally spill all the tea. Like I love talking about my feelings, and I think that's like why I'm okay. That's been like the best for me, is just like talking about it for sure.
No,
I
and
should
that's so.
mention, while we've had this conversation, there's been a lot of internal support and love on our chat for our viewers to each other.
Aw.
A lot of people
Aw.
saying that they're here for you, Taylor, and they love your smile. One person asked if you only cried once today, which you don't need to answer.
I haven't yet, but I'll keep you guys posted. It's still early today.
And yeah, a lot of support for, it seems like a lot of people have gone through this, so this is a really important topic.
God, I love all.
Oh, thank you for saying that, Hannah. That's so. See, this is what we're here for, because I think, this is the great thing, and whatever version of therapy is yours, I think. I mean, I don't want to say that, Jen. I know, obviously it can be medical, but I think doing the show even is cathartic for me personally, and being able to learn that it's not embarrassing to talk about stuff, because chances are somebody else is going through it. And I don't know, I think you just come out of it feeling more human and more real and more raw. And it just, yeah, we're lucky, again, I'm going to say it for the 100th time, to be able to have songwriting, because I think we're able to do this in a therapy way and just put it into a song and have it forever. Because it's, even when you were telling the story about going to the ocean and stuff, it's like so true. It's that feeling of writing a song and just wanting to listen to it 100 times, to cry again and again and again, is so, it's like an addiction. It literally is a drug, because it just feels so good to cry sometimes. That's another thing to talk about. Like, crying is so nice, right? Sometimes I'm just like, I want to cry. It just feels good.
I love crying. Like, it's the best thing ever. I mean, I didn't cry. That's what's crazy, is like getting out of this relationship, all these like mental health issues, things that I never knew I had, like came up, and I was like, oh, I do have anxiety. Oh, I do cry a bunch now. Like, what's going on? But yeah, crying is great. Like when I talk to friends who are like, yeah, I only cry like when something like horrible happens, I'm like, I cry if my coffee tastes bad in the morning. Like, what are you talking about? Like, it is very therapeutic, because then you leave and like you're over it, and you kind of like get the feelings out. But it's different for everyone, for sure. But
dude, I almost cried like 4 times in this episode. No, but it's so funny, because people always say to me, oh my God, you're so happy. It's like, but you never really know what someone's going through, right? It's like, you can have whatever sort of like shell on that you choose to put out there, but at the end of the day, you don't really know what's in them. Even if I'm talking to you and I'm totally seeming like I'm fine, like, you don't know that's like how fine I really am, which is another reason you should, I always say, like, I'm very sensitive to people's energy. So even though I like can see them smiling or see them I can feel like something's wrong. You know what I mean? Like, I have such a sensitive like radar on that kind of stuff. So I'm always just like, are you sure? And it's almost annoying. People like, why do you keep asking what's wrong? I'm like,
no,
something's wrong.
Like that. That's so rad. Yeah.
And then it always honestly turns out that something was wrong. So I'm just like, and the thing is, I like when people turn it around on me too, because I appreciate it. It means they care,
100%.
So anyway, I know that we have to wrap up soon. So Hannah, is there any other questions before we wrap?
No, for the most part, we're here for you, Taylor. So grateful for you. You've inspired one of our viewers to start playing electric and acoustic guitar after their breakup in the middle of the pandemic, and it helped them so much, and they feel eternally grateful for you. A lot of notes of thank you for inspiring everyone. So you're not only doing a lot for the music community, but for all of music consumers and people sitting at home waiting for a guitar so they can write songs. It seems like you've done that, which we should then bring up again.
Yes.
swipe up on Jenna's Instagram story to enter into our contest for a free Taylor guitar signed by Upsahl. And the code is, Jenna?
Stop.
Did we time it right with the delay? I'm just kidding. Great.
And I'm trying to think of a cool way to like stop being mean to yourself. But that's not the code. It's just stop. But I'm just making something out of it too. But no, I mean that's really the mantra. You know, that can be the manifesting part of it. But also, I'll send you the form too, Taylor, if you want to put it on your story for people to enter. And then yeah, so we'll have that again. It's stop. We'll decide the winner in the next week, and I'll reveal it on Instagram, and then you'll get a nice shiny guitar in the mail. But hopefully that can help too. Maybe learn guitar to get over a breakup.
Yes,
right? And then again, I wanted to mention, so since I'm at the Alice and Olivia store in Southampton, that if anybody's on the East Coast and comes to Southampton, they'll get 10% off their purchase if you mention Green Room Talks, and 10% will go back to the Jed Foundation for mental health, which is why we're all here. For some reason, I can't talk today. It's like,
you're thriving.
But I won't hate myself for it.
Oh.
Yeah, I love myself. I stutter and I love it. But no, thank you so much. I'm so happy we did this.
This was like so rad. Thank you so much.
Oh. And thank you from the Jed Foundation for the support for mental health.
No, of course. And actually, before we go, really quick, Taylor, I was curious, just one question. This has been coming up a lot. Do you think it would be useful to have an in-house therapist at labels? Like, would you be happy if, for example, Arista had a therapist?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I feel like it should be like covered for artists, honestly, because like it's a lot. And also like having to, I mean, everybody has to work through any shit they're going through. And then when you're putting your emotions into your work or whatever, sometimes you're kind of like hiding the actual emotions. Do you get what I'm saying? Like my Instagram, you could never tell I went through a breakup. Like I did not skip a beat. And like that's the other like thing I guess I want to say to people watching is like social media is so fake. Like I was promoting a song like when I was going through the breakup and like seemed like I was doing great, but like I was crying while posting it. Like everyone, no matter how perfect their life looks, is like going through something. So yeah, I think therapy is super important for artists, and that would be so sick if labels were, yeah, that would be rad to have an in-house therapist. That'd be sick.
I love that you said that because, you know, and this will be my last thing, but I really love that you say that because I think people have so much pressure to be perfect because of social media. And I know even with labels being like, oh, you have for women and for men, but for women, especially when it's like, you have to look so pretty, you have to like all these things, right? And you have to be perfect. You have to say all the right things. And that's not easy. We're just humans, right? So I think given that if you had a therapist at your own label, that you were actually able to be like, listen, I'm not okay. And I will do this, but I feel not okay with it. And I need to talk it through. Like, I think that would be amazing. And I really want to, I want to work on that. Hannah, let's go.
I'm absolutely. I think the kind of going off of what Upsahl said, I think a lot of times artists walk into their labels and they want to seem like they have it all put together. The last thing they want to come across as is as emotional and too many feelings and too complicated. And I think we're starting to change that. And there should be a shift. There should be an in-house therapist. I think that's an incredible idea, Jenna, and something we should really go after because everyone should feel supported. And that should be a part of a record deal.
100%.
Because let me just put a plug for maybe not having an in-house therapist would be great, but having access to others might be even better because not everybody, it's a fit, it's a fit issue. Sure. So you really want people to be able to have choices, but you could have maybe here are 3 therapists that will support that are.
By the way, Janice, I love that you said that. Yeah. You're absolutely right about that. Similar to what it would be like in, high school when you have, right, like guidance counselors and stuff. I think if you had a couple different options, but something built into the structure and the system would be really good because there's a way to feel like, hey, this is my family and I feel supported. And this is like, because some people aren't like us. It's not as easy to be like, I need help. So you would have to identify it for them. Right. That's another part. But it's definitely something we should work on. I really think that's important. So
love that. Oh yeah.
Let's do it.
Thank you so much, you guys. And like I said, I'm gonna post the form now. And as usual, there's a link to donate to Jed Foundation in the link in my stories, and also on my bio on Instagram. And we'll also, I don't know, Hannah, if you have already, but I think we've provided all the hotlines and all that stuff. And again, I'm putting the form, code word, stop. Okay. Well, I can't wait till next time. And love you guys. Love all you guys.
This was so fun. I
Have a
love
good
you
one.
guys. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Upsahl. Bye.